The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass Five College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, we'll talk about the citywide celebrations that are happening in honor of the civil rights figure whose birthday is today, as we talk with Shannon Rudder of MLK Jr. Family Services and Azel Kavan about all the events for Martin Luther King Jr. Day and beyond.
We'll also head up to the Eric Carle Museum to see the intersection of children's books and photography at a new exhibit that opens this weekend called Click.
But first, we turn our attention, for the first time on this show in the year 2026, to Capitol Hill.
Why, what's going on there? Anything fun?
Time for our first McGoverning with McGovern for the year 2026. And what a year it's been, halfway through the first month. It's our weekly conversation with U.S. Congressman from the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts, the ranking member of the Rules Committee, who, according to a recent article in Politico, even though it's an election year, has no desire to be running for Senate, even though he's making a statewide tour, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Congressman Jim McGovern. Let's start with an article from Monday in the Greenfield Recorder by Madison Schofield. It reads, U.S. Representative Jim McGovern sat down with community members at the First Congregational Church Fellowship Hall on Saturday in Shelburne, discussing military action in Venezuela, the rising cost of living, and actions by the Trump administration, as well as the importance of local activism and voting in the midterm elections. For a little under 3 hours, McGovern addressed attendees' questions on immigration and customs enforcement. McGovern said ICE has been employing Gestapo-like tactics, walking around wearing masks while carrying assault weapons and intimidating people. He added that the killing of Renee Good in Minneapolis by ICE agent Jonathan Ross was murder. This is a good jumping off point because I think we're going to hit a lot of the topics I just mentioned from this article. Sure. And it appears ICE is continuing these tactics in Minnesota. There are unverified reports frequently to me about ICE in our area. What do you think our response should be as citizens in light of this? And what should your response be as our congressman?
One is we need to show up. We need to be witnesses. I mean, we need to engage in peaceful dissent and protest. If ICE is in our communities, we need to videotape what they're doing. We need to make sure that, our local officials are not cooperating with ICE, because ICE has become a very destructive force. I mean, if this were happening in Iran or in Venezuela, the President of the United States would be on TV, screaming his head off.
Which he is. We're threatening. We are threatening to bomb Iran because they are killing protesters in Iran.
Right. And a 37-year-old mother gets shot in the face 3 times. We all saw the video. You got to believe your eyes. The idea that they're justifying that they're saying that, she was a domestic terrorist. I mean, she deserved to be executed for trying to back up her car. That's nuts. And in Minneapolis, ICE is going door to door. And people are saying that, they're coming to their doors without warrants and saying we can do whatever the hell we want to do. I mean, that's not America. I mean, this is Donald Trump's personal secret police. And in the aftermath of Renee Good's murder, one would think, they would de-escalate. They've doubled down. They've sent, hundreds and hundreds of more ICE agents into Minneapolis. My colleagues from that area are telling me it's like a police state. And I think we have to be prepared, because we're a blue state. We committed the sin of not voting for Donald Trump, that, they may try to do a surge here in Massachusetts. So we just have to be prepared. And we need to make it clear that we don't need them. We don't want them. They don't belong here. I don't even believe ICE should exist, quite frankly. I was, just a few years back, I was one of the first members of Congress to say that we should abolish ICE. I still believe that. This has become an intimidating force that really undermines what this country is supposed to be about.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, a listener question from Matt Longy saying, "Hey, Monty and Khalees, love the show." Thanks, Matt. I have a question for Jim. I listen with growing frustration to stories of undocumented immigrants being brutalized in front of their children, and in many cases incarcerated or deported afterwards. Regardless of their parent status, these children are in many cases U.S. citizens. So how has there not been any class action lawsuits filed on their behalf for having their lives upended and rights violated by ICE's actions?
I don't know if there's any class action lawsuits. I do know that there are many lawsuits with regard to individuals being brutalized by ICE and basically the welfare of the children and how this has been devastating for the children. But he's right. I mean, some of the immigrant advocacy groups, I'm sure, are contemplating such legal action, and they should. We ought to use the courts as much as we can. We can't necessarily depend on them because we don't know how the Supreme Court ultimately will rule on some of these things. They seem to always fall on the side of Trump. But absolutely, we need to use every tool available to make sure that we're not guilty of human rights violations. Again, if this were happening in other countries, we would be screaming. It's happening here, and what's alarming is how many people just seem to be going along to get along. I mean, this is serious, and it's spreading, and it's getting worse.
I do know that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who I know you are close with, who also ran for Vice President of the United States, is recommending that citizens film any ICE activity for, as he says, future litigation. It may not be something that could happen now, given the current Justice Department, but it is something that potentially could happen in the future. So I would just say, if you're seeing anything questionable, filming it is not going to be a bad idea. Yeah. Maybe don't smash a window of the ICE vehicle, because there are also calls on the right for invoking the Insurrection Act, and then that could have disastrous effects there. But nevertheless, another listener question on another big topic in this very brief moment we've been in 2026, which is our newest country, Venezuela. The listener question is from Josh Jacobson, who writes, our criminal president, the Department of War, and three-letter agencies have conducted an illegal and highly successful coup against the government of Venezuela. Now, whether or not you believe this government to be legitimately elected is besides the point. The fundamental issue is that this administration usurped the war-making powers of the U.S. Congress to overthrow an internationally recognized government with zero congressional oversight and accountability. Can we, he asks, the people of the Commonwealth, expect you, Congressman, as you've consistently and righteously done in the past, to stand with like-minded colleagues and formally demand accountability and transparency about all operations leading up to this full-scale invasion? I do know that you, in an email blast that I got, said that you have reintroduced your bipartisan war powers resolution to rein in, as you say, this rogue administration and reassert Congress's authority. I do believe that that will die on the vine if it doesn't get voted on by January 22nd. Now we can add Iran, as we mentioned, and potentially Greenland to this list. What's your take on Josh Johnson's query?
There needs to be full transparency about the Venezuela operation and all of our military operations, quite frankly. If we were in charge of the House, we could do oversight hearings so we could get the truth out so that everybody can see it. I'm asking for this war powers resolution because I do think that Congress is shirking its constitutional responsibility if we just sit on the sidelines like potted plants and let this administration invade whoever they want to invade or send our troops wherever they want to send our troops. If members of Congress believe that we should send American men and women into harm's way for oil, then have the guts to vote for it. But if you don't, and I think it's a stupid thing to do, we ought to vote no. But we ought to have a vote, to let this administration do whatever the hell it wants to do without even a debate in Congress, I think is a dereliction of our duty. So we need transparency. I think what the president did in Venezuela was illegal and unjustified. I think Maduro is a thug. I don't think he was legitimately elected. But this is not about regime change, apparently, because the president just replaced one dictator with another. And it's not about drugs. They don't even talk about drugs anymore. It's about oil. Mm-hmm. The president briefed oil executives before he briefed the Gang of Eight in Congress. So it tells you everything you need to know. And here's the deal. The oil industry was very generous to Donald Trump in terms of supporting his campaign. They're getting rewarded, and that's what this is about.
What about your war powers resolution? If that were to pass, and like I said, I think it will die on the vine if it's not voted on by January 22nd, what would happen then?
Well, unfortunately, the Senate, it lost by one vote yesterday in the Senate. Two Republicans who previously voted for it were persuaded to switch their vote because they received a call from Marco Rubio. I would classify them as cheap dates. But it is important, I think, that we still move forward with this vote and this debate, because if the House goes on record as saying we believe and we want you to know that we expect to, if you do any further military action, that you're going to come and seek authorization from Congress, and if we don't give it to you, you can't do it. I think it's important. I think it's it's more than just symbolic. It's a signal that Congress, including some Republicans, are asserting our constitutional authority here. Look, I'm going to tell you, never in my life, I think never in our history, have we been closer to a one-man rule as we are right now. We all talk about checks and balances. Well, checks and balances don't work if the people who are part of those checks and balances don't live up to their responsibility. This is beyond the pale, and everybody has to understand that, and we all have a role to play. And that was what we talked about in Shelburne, was like, we all have power. So this is a time, to use John Lewis's phrase, for all of us to get into good trouble.
Well, this leads perfectly into another listener question from Carl Meyer in Greenfield, who says, Dear Congressman McGovern, it's now been a full year of attacks and withering snippets and assaults on the Constitution, individuals, the rule of law, whole cities, immigrants, and now entire countries from a vengeful, predatory president drunk with his own power. Again, Carl Meyer's words. Please consider and offer your response to the following query and observation. Would you agree that until those people across the country who are willing to defend freedom, the Constitution, and preserve our democracy for future generations decide to confront this, as he says, menace by descending on the nation's capital and confronting the tyrant and his tyranny face to face, that this cancerous brutality will ultimately continue until nothing morally defensible resembling a civil society remains in place across these United States? What's your take on that?
I agree with him. I think this is a moment to think about like a national strike. The only tool we have to fight back is people. And I think the midterm elections, are important. I hope they go off without a hitch. But I'm worried about whether there'll be future elections. I mean, I'm not trying to be alarmist, but I'm just telling you, I see the way this president operates. I listen to people like Stephen Miller. I mean, they're frightening. You mentioned Greenland earlier. I mean, they're basically saying, Greenland's ours. We have it. We have a right to it. And we'll take it either by paying everybody $100,000 apiece. Boy, wouldn't it be nice if everybody in the United States got $100,000 apiece? Mm-hmm. Or we're going to militarily invade. And so what if NATO blows up? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that this administration, is saying. They're not even hiding it. And this is a time for people to kind of get out of their comfort zone and do a little bit more. Even if it's holding a sign on the street corner, we all can do something.
Speaking with Congressman Jim McGovern, from the potentially small victories file, I know that you used House rules to bypass Speaker Johnson to force a vote on extending the Affordable Care Act. 17 Republicans joined forces with the Democrats on that one. It was also forced to be sent to the Senate immediately, but as far as I know, or what I've been looking at since the time we've talked, nothing yet in the Senate on that one. Is that the case, and is it running out of time if that is the case?
Yeah. What we learned yesterday is that the Speaker of the House sent over the wrong bill to the Senate. So the bill we passed technically is not even before the Senate. And the way you fix it is, this has happened in the past. You just move in the Senate for unanimous consent to have the right bill sent over, and Senator Rick Scott of Florida objected. So now we're trying to get the bill back over to the Senate. But look, we're running out of time. I mean, people have already made the decision not to get health care this year. This should have been done last year. And that the Senate is trying to find ways to drag its feet, it's unconscionable. There has to be a political price to pay for this. Healthcare in this country ought to be a fundamental human right, and it's become a privilege, and it's really disgusting.
You are starting tomorrow, Congressman McGovern, your End Hunger Now tour, as we see what is going to be potentially happening with the most recently passed budget and cuts to federal food assistance and SNAP and all sorts of other programs. I've actually been lucky enough to be able to host listening sessions across the Commonwealth through the governor's office and her anti-hunger task force, but you are kicking things off Friday in Quincy and Everett and all the other cities and towns that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon said on the Tonight Show the other night, which was quite funny.
My wife said they mispronounced Amherst.
They were right on the line. I give them a B to B+ for accuracy, but an A for comedy. They got Whately, though. I was really surprised. I thought they were going to butcher Whately. I'm glad they didn't. Anyway, what is the goal of this tour, and what are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, because of what's been happening in Washington, hunger is getting worse in this country. We're now close to 48 million Americans who are hungry or food insecure. The governor is doing what she can to try to, fill in the gaps. There are new work requirements that are in place on SNAP, new paperwork requirements causing all kinds of confusion. In some communities, we have people doing anti-hunger work that, quite frankly, should be a model for the rest of the state and for the country. So I want to learn about that, but I also want to hear the stories, because I think, we can talk about facts and figures and numbers and statistics all we want, but at the end of the day, people aren't always moved by that. But I think people are moved by stories, and I want to hear directly from people about how life is getting more difficult for them, and to try to figure out solutions. And when it comes to invading Venezuela, we have the money, or bailing out Argentina, or paying off people in Greenland, we got the money. But when it comes to feeding our own people in this country, the Republicans cry poor mouth. I'm trying to focus more attention on it so that they can't ignore it.
One more little bit. Your former aide in your congressional office, my current First Franklin representative on Beacon Hill, Natalie Blais, announced that she'll be stepping down from her position effective January 19th. She got a gig at UMass and she said I should say it with a little bit of snootiness every time I say it. Vice Chancellor of Government Relations at UMass Amherst. Thoughts and reflections on Natalie Blais as your former aide and as my current, and for the next few days, state representative?
Well, I've talked to her about it. I think she's made a decision that will allow her to continue to serve the community. But look, I think she is an incredible state legislator and an incredible public servant. And I think she's a wonderful, wonderful human being. I mean, I love her. I mean, she's the best. And she cares about people, and she's real. You know, we need people like her in government. Yeah, I have mixed emotions. I mean, because one is I wanted her to stay there forever, and I wanted her to rise up in the ranks of leadership. But I understand her decision, and I wish her well, and we're going to continue to work together, but she's the best.
Okay, stop me if I'm not allowed to ask this question, but I do know you spent the holidays in Italy, and you met the Pope, the first American Pope?
I did. My wife, Lisa, and my son Patrick and I did. We went to Assisi. That's where our daughter Molly passed away in April, and we, met some of her friends that she'd been there a few times, and they celebrated a mass in her honor in the Basilica of St. Francis and the chapel where St. Francis's remains are buried. And then we went to Rome and had an opportunity to speak to the Pope for a few minutes. We gave her one of his mass cards. I thanked him for his advocacy on immigration, and he asked me about how Congress was, and and I told him it was kind of crazy. He kind of rolled his eyes and said, but I'm really impressed with him, and I think he's got a good heart, and I appreciate his willingness to speak out on human rights and on behalf of immigrants. But it was a great honor, and it was a great trip. It was an emotional trip for us, but it was a great trip.
I can't imagine. Congressman, we'll do 2026 like we did 2025. What's giving you hope this week?
Well, it's giving me hope. I mean, I go back to the town hall in Shelburne. I mean, I was packed on a Saturday morning, and people, had a lot of energy and, and not giving up. So I left that meeting. It was 3 hours long with a little bit of a bounce in my step. But I'm like, if they're still willing to fight, so am I. I really appreciate everybody showing up.
And I think the community appreciates you showing up in their communities as well. And I know we appreciate here at the show your willingness to talk with us and to take questions from listeners. If you have a question for Congressman Jim McGovern, you can send it to us, thefab413@nepm.org, and I'll ask the Congressman for you. Thanks as always, Congressman.
All the best. It's good to be back with you. So talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Soon we'll hear how Springfield is turning out to celebrate the life and legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. with Shannon Rudder, president of MLK Family Services, including the annual event at the Mass Mutual Center on the holiday itself.
But before that, we'll head up to Amherst, where the illustrations of picture books are always the highlight. And this Saturday, we'll see cameras enter the building for both their International Film Festival and the brand new exhibit Click, which we'll explore next.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Dean's Beans Organic Coffee, a locally based, worker-owned company committed to social and environmental responsibility, roasting fair trade, organic, shade-grown coffee since 1993. DeansBeans.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Eastside Grill, celebrating 40 years in downtown Northampton, serving steaks, seafood, and American cuisine to the Pioneer Valley and beyond. Open Wednesday through Monday, eastsidegrill.com.
Isabel Ruiz has been taking. We are back at the Eric Carle Museum of Picture Book Art, where tomorrow night, officially, a gala opening of a new exhibit.
Hey, my name is Isabel Ruiz Cano, and I am the Associate Curator at the Eric Carle Museum of Picture Book Art. You are about to experience Click, Photographers Make Picture Books, which was curated by Leonard S. Marcus, and it's our special exhibition for the opening of this year.
Tell us about Leonard and what he's bringing to the Carle Museum.
Yeah, so Leonard is really one of the preeminent scholars of children's literature. He's really put children's literature on the map, and he is very passionate about representation and about bringing all kinds of different artists that work with all kinds of different media into the spotlight. And for this exhibition, one of his passions is photography in picture books. He's said that the photographic picture books haven't ever really been acknowledged for their artistry. They've never won a Caldecott. So this exhibition really puts them on the map.
People don't necessarily think about picture books with photos in them. They're always thinking about like drawings or paintings or other mediums instead of photography, but it's just as artistic and just as well curated.
And we have been in this Eric Carle Museum of Picture Book Art with some excellent visual artists from the painting and drawing end of things, like Grace Lynn, who we were here with most recently. Let's take a look at what Leonard has brought and that you helped to curate here, Isabel.
So we can start with the first section, Real Worlds. Real Worlds really is all about documentary photography. Picture books really help guide young children and help them understand the world. And that's really what these photographers were trying to do. So Ila Camila Kofler is a photographer from Vienna who in the 50s became really well known for her animal portraits. So much so that her animal portraits then became subjects of picture books themselves. Like this is a collaboration with Margaret Wise Brown called The Duck. Margaret Wise Brown wrote the text after Ila did the photographs.
Margaret Wise Brown may be a name that people remember. Why would they know that name?
If you've ever read Goodnight Moon, you remember Margaret Wise Brown, who is just such a force in children's literature, really one of the most prolific authors. And having her represented in this exhibition is also very cool, very important.
Because I've read Goodnight Moon a bazillion times, but I've never seen a picture book that she wrote with these gorgeous black and white photos of a duck playing with a rooster, or a duck playing with a baby chimp, or a duck playing with a puppy, or a duck playing with an elephant. It's pretty great.
Yes. Moving on, we also have photographs of children living around the world. Peter Buckley in 1954 started this series called An Around the World Today. The first one was Cesare of Italy, showing you the life of a boy in a little Italian town immediately post-World War II, where you can see that these photographers, they had their own practice themselves. They were photojournalists, they were documentary photographers, they were portrait photographers, but they sort of stumbled into making children's books. And being able to show children that there are people like them all over the world, even though their houses might look different or their schools might look different, they're going through the same routine.
Continuing through the brand new exhibit set to open tomorrow, the Eric Carle Museum of Picture Book Art in Amherst, called Click, looking at photographs in children's books with curator Isabel Ruiz.
It opens Saturday to the public.
Okay.
Friday to the members.
Special people.
Members.
Yeah, okay. So support the museum and then you can come on Friday. Or everybody come on Saturday.
Yeah, continuing on this idea of children around the world, one of the newer books that we have represented is a book that comes from China, actually. Peng Yi is a very well-known photographer in China, virtually unknown outside of China, but he spent some time with a reindeer herding tribe, one of the last sort of reindeer herding tribes in the world. And he did it through the lens following one of the youngest members of the tribe. So these are just brilliant, incredible photographs where you can feel the cold of the winter that is setting in, very apropos for the time that we're in. And you can just see the joy that people take in cohabiting with these animals. And I think it really introduces us to something that we may not be familiar with.
Yeah, Santa may hook reindeer up to a sleigh, but this one has a little kid in a beautiful pink outfit riding a reindeer.
And I think that's one of the really interesting things about these photos too, especially moving from black and white to color on this end, is that the clothing of the folks who are herding reindeer pops. It's so bright, and the landscape is so bleak.
I also think it's cool that they're milking reindeer.
Everything that makes milk can be milked.
Oh yeah, you can milk anything with nipples.
I have nipples, Greg.
Could you milk me?
One of the cool things I think about it, especially following somebody young, is that like we all know that like bright colors pop for kids. A neat way to keep them interested beyond the animals themselves is like all of those pops of color where the people show up.
Yeah. We can move on to the next section.
Hold on a second. Behind us is Bill T. Jones.
Yes, I'm like the generations, I don't know who's gonna respond to what.
Well, like, I used to dance. So like
yes.
seeing Bill T. Jones and seeing a book with him and his movement really breaking down some of his movement is super cool because like the way that kids move before they start taking dance classes is very grounded and it's very kind of like flaily, but like there's something about that to the way that he's always choreographed. I find that really cool to put in a kid's book. Like, oh look, these are movements that you can do.
Yes.
Bill T. Jones has a long relationship with another institution here in Western Mass with Jacob's Pillow.
Yeah, so the picture book that you guys are talking about is called Dance, and it was done by Bill T. Jones in collaboration with the photographer Susan Cooklin. And she was actually describing how she photographed this book. She just let him have at it. He was sort of also directing her. He was like, oh, I really want you to get this pose. And he would look at the pictures and he was like, no, that's terrible. Let's do another take. But it was just really a moment of synergy between the two of them. And Susan will be here on Friday. If you are a member of the Carl, you can listen to her. And I think she will be here on Saturday as well for a book signing that is open to the public.
Fun.
Sorry, I couldn't let us go past that.
No, I didn't want to miss that one either.
One that my generation will definitely recognize is Walter Wick, who is Mr. I Spy. We've blown up these images as big as they can get. He actually took the first images for I Spy with film photography. He's moved on to using digital photography, but I can just imagine how intricate the process was to get rid of all of the shadows, to layer all of these objects, to make sure that every single diorama is set. And it's really, really fun to be able to see these images blown up because when you're a kid and you're encountering the I Spy books, those are so hard because everything is so small.
Yeah. And now that I'm old and need reading glasses, this is how I need to access I Spy books nowadays.
Yeah, and Walter Wick's collection is actually at the New Britain Museum of Art, which is just about an hour and a half drive away from us, so you should definitely go check it out. They also have his physical dioramas.
The photos are awesome and amazing, but like the construction part of it, because you've got floating things.
Yeah, I think this one that's floating is an overhead shot, and then he's like lit it in such a way that it looks like everything is floating. You can't see any shadows, right, beyond the objects overlapping.
Yeah.
But there's no shadows that indicate that the objects are on a surface.
Right.
And he did this diorama style? He didn't do individual photos and then hodgepodge them all together?
Yeah, he did. He sort of would take different photos from like different angles and with different lighting situations and then layer them. But actually, if you keep an eye on our website, there will be a blog post by Walter Wick explaining his process.
Oh, cool.
And he will be here on Friday.
Nice. Meet the I Spy guy. More coming up with Isabel Ruiz-Gano at the Eric Carle Museum of Picture Book Art in Amherst as we see some of the oldest children's books to feature photography, including some with local connections for the new exhibit Click. And we'll hear more about their film festival this Saturday as well.
After which we'll explore the many ways you can celebrate the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. right here in Springfield with Shannon Rudder of MLK Family Services in Mason Square.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM. Isabel Ruiz has been taking us through this Click exhibit, which opens to the general public at the Eric Carle Museum of Picture Book Art in Amherst on Saturday, although if you're a member, special event on Friday night.
I love the fruit faces. People put faces in things anyway, and so like seeing it and all of the black eyed pea eyes, because they're all black eyed pea eyes, I got a feeling on these vegetables is like the cutest thing.
Yeah, there are fruits and vegetables with black eyed pea eyes making different faces. Who's the artist behind this?
This is Saxton Freeman, who created all of these without any sort of retouching. So this is all his food art, as he calls it. But his book series, How Are You Peeling, cooking was very prolific. Yeah, vegetables with really funny faces.
I know.
Yeah, they all look really funny and human. And my stomach started to rumble in front of this one, so that's interesting too.
Yeah, and it teaches kids to identify emotions, and he does this in such an engaging way.
Now we have a local photographer who's featured here at this local museum.
Yeah, Shelley Rotner, who is a great friend of the Carl. We love having her here, and she will be doing a lot of special story times throughout this exhibition. Her newest book is called Love is a Big Feeling, which features a lot of local kids from the Valley that are her neighbors, that are from different schools or even soccer groups. And really, this is just all of the different ways that one can find love, right? You can find love in your environment. It can be a family. It can be with your siblings or your friends. It can even be just with yourself. But they're just such wonderful portraits of the kind of community that we have here. One of our staff members, actually, her son, when he was really little, was photographed by Shelley for a book. And now
My kids were photographed with him, but I'll have to look back on that.
Yeah.
Friends with kids in her books.
We should get all of these kids together and
Yeah.
a little Shelley reunion. Really, really exciting are William Wegman's Weimaraner dogs. I think I pronounced that correctly.
Yes.
He is really well known for these photographs of his dogs, and one day he decided to dress up. I think she was like the third generation of dogs as Cinderella, and it turned into a children's book, which is now out of print, but you can see 5 incredible photographs here, and these are all actually don't have any retouching. They are color Polaroids. He has one of the last large format.
Giant Polaroids.
That's so cool.
So big, right? Like specially constructed, specially maintained just for him. And they are just such amazing images to look at. I love the Wicked Stepsisters playing dress up and
The dog faces that look so put upon, and human arms.
Yes.
yes,
Makes
it's
it a little
always those
creepier.
like uncanny human arms.
Yeah, and the dogs often, they do look sad, but cute. Like, why are you dressing me up, William Wegman?
Yes.
Like, Dad, do we have to keep doing this?
Roger Mello is a Brazilian artist who works in many, many different forms. And we have one of his photographic picture books on display here. It's completely black and white, but he created all of these dioramas himself. The story is called Contradança. It's in Portuguese, and it is about a little doll girl who just goes on sort of an Alice in Wonderland-esque adventure, breaks a mirror, but there's a lot of references, to Alice in Wonderland, to Degas ballerinas. The little doll is just so delicate and just so beautiful and very stylized. And you can see the care that Mello took into creating all of these pictures and all of these little vignettes to photograph. Finally, we have another former Valley resident, Mo Willems. Please come
Totally
back.
ditched me, Mo and Cher. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, Mo, also a great friend of the museum. He does integrate photography into his picture books. The Knuffle Bunny picture books all have these weird photographic backgrounds. They were all places that Mo, lived nearby when he lives in New York City, but he's edited some of them so that they're like not recognizable. He turns the Clover Barbershop into the Clever Barbershop. And he started this because he thought it would be a fun shortcut from having to draw all of these backgrounds all of the time, but it quickly became really integrated into his practice. And I love that we have one of his production sheets here for the entire book. So he'll divide all of the steps into like, take the picture and then edit the picture and then do the line art. And you can see him track
horrible
his
thing happens on July
progress.
18th that took a whole column.
Yes. I think only Mo can truly understand this process, but it's really fun to have this.
And you do get to see the line art and
And you get to
then
see
the
the line art
finished,
and then the
photo,
finished
photograph
photo,
with the
right?
drawings on top of it.
Yeah, you get to see the blue line art, which comes, from this tradition of cartoonists and animators that do a lot of blue sketches and really lets you see how Mo thinks of himself as an artist.
Isabel, there is a film festival that's happening at the Carl Museum on Saturday as well, kind of in conjunction with MLK Day weekend.
Yeah, so this is the International New York Film Festival for big kids and little kids. We will have 4 screenings, so 2 movies for big kids and 2 movies for little kids. It's films from all over the world. This film festival, it'll be happening throughout the day, and you can also buy a ticket that includes admission to the film festival and the museum. We will also be having a tour by Leonard Marcus of the exhibition starting at 11. And then we will have a book signing with some of the artists and photographers at the museum immediately following the tour, so at around 11:45. And you'll get to meet people like Nina Cruz and Shelley Rotner. And maybe Shelley will take a picture of your kid.
Join us!
Yeah. I hear babies crying in the distance and children coming in, so we let them experience the museum without the interruption of...
call to action. He's going to go try to find a baby to hold.
Yes. No, I try not to do it to people I don't know.
Picture yourself when you're getting
This is one of the best Kink songs.
Love it.
Find more information on Saturday's talk and film festival through the Carl Museum's website. Thanks again to Isabel and Sandy for spending so much time with us. That exhibit is really cool.
It is very cool. Now to learn how you can celebrate the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. starting today, which is his actual birthday, and especially this Monday's holiday with the annual celebration at the Mass Mutual Center. We'll talk with Shannon Rudder of MLK Family Services, who'll join us next.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar in Hatfield, specializing in solar installations, battery storage, and clean energy solutions tailored to the homes and businesses of Western Massachusetts. Northeast-solar.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. Happy MLK Jr. Day, as his birthday is actually today, as Stevie is reminding us right now. Starting today, the city of Springfield begins 5 days of events, gathering community, and honoring the legacy of the scholar and activist.
Each year, folks gather to honor the life and enduring legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on the federal holiday, reminded of his life, legacy, and unshakable moral leadership. This year's theme, Restoring Justice, Reclaiming the Dream, invites us all to rise together in a moment when Dr. King's vision urgently calls for renewed commitment, courage, and collective action.
With us to talk about this Monday's events in particular and many other happenings in honor of the civil rights leader is the president of the Martin Luther King Jr. Family Services based in Mason Square in Springfield, Shannon Rudder. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's awesome to see you both.
It's awesome
Likewise.
to see you
Happy
too.
New Year.
Yeah.
Has this always gone on for this long? Because the first thing I did notice about the announcement where I was looking for the theme, because the theme changes every year, is that, yeah, you do have an event starting today and then every day leading up to Monday's festivities at the Mass Mutual Center.
So the beauty of it is that is not all MLK Family Services. That is, I mean, I attended this MLK Basketball Classic yesterday that was like teachers versus students.
Oh, no.
That I had never heard of.
Are the
basketball
teachers
game.
okay?
This year's the first year they lost. So I was like,
Oh, really?
after I gave my remarks, I was like, I'm betting on the kids, and they took it. So I'm very proud of them.
Right on.
But yeah, this is our city rising up, you know, and saying that we will honor and live in his legacy. So I cannot take all that credit. I just am grateful to be a part of an awesome city that is dedicated to living into these goals.
And there's a collective that works on all of these events that the Martin Luther King Jr. Family Services is one part of. But there's a bunch of organizations. It looks like close to a dozen organizations.
It is a dozen.
Yeah, that are putting all of these events together. In particular, the big event at the Mass Mutual Center.
Yeah.
Who comes up with the theme?
We do the
whole
collaborative.
collective,
Yeah, the
yeah.
collaborative MLK Day collaborative meets. We actually, what was interesting about, I would say, this year's theme is we did a debrief from last year. We sat around and we were like, what are we feeling, right? Last year's MLK Day celebration was on Inauguration Day. And so we were like, well, what are we feeling? What are we sitting with? And so you'll notice that the theme for this year is very action oriented, right? It's like restoring and reclaiming. We're doing those things. And it amazes me because we come up with it in spring and still it's very resonant.
I was going to say, like, on the page for the event that happens on Monday, you have something that honestly could be one of your tags for one of your themes for next year, and it's that hope alone is not enough, action is required.
Yeah. We've got to stand into it.
We're speaking with the director of Martin Luther King Jr. Family Services based at Mason Square in Springfield, Shannon Rudder. And people may remember you coming on talking about lots of different things over the years. But most recently was when we were on the March for the Food Bank, which that is where it kicks off from there. If people aren't familiar with the day in, day out work of what MLK Jr. Family Services does, tell us a little bit more about your organization year round.
Sure. So we are keepers of the dream, and we say it's MLK 365 through our programs. And so part of the work that we do is making sure that we're showing up in meaningful ways for our community through our programs. And so Monty, you just talked about food access. And so we are determined to make sure that our community, which has no full-scale grocery store, has access to the food and the supplements and the resources as well, right? So we know that it's food, but it's also, we invite people to come and table and to talk about, any type of resources so that folks can have what they need when they need it. So the food is definitely one of our food pantry is definitely one of our core programs.
And I just want to stop you right there to say that the reason we started doing the Food Bank March, which used to just go from Northampton to Greenfield, in Mason Square, and particularly at MLK Jr. Family Services, which has the food pantry that the food bank supplies food for, is that there are more human beings that live in the neighborhood of Mason Square, Springfield, than live in the entire city of Northampton. It just so happens that many of the human beings in Mason Square happen to be Black and brown. And despite the pleas from that community many, many times to bring a frontline, full-service, big-name grocery store to that community, there is still no big frontline major brand name full service grocery store in that community. In Northampton, you've got Big Y, you got Stop and Shop, you got the Co-op, you got State Street, you got Cooper's. It goes on and on and on. So the discrepancies and frankly, the racism involved in all that is very apparent in that one neighborhood in Springfield.
Yeah, and it's all around because, like, technically my neighborhood, which is McKnight, just next door to Mason Square, is also a food desert. Like, there's just no access in that corner of Springfield. The moment you get out, there's a lot more options.
Yeah.
And transportation is a huge part of the problem too. So if you don't have access to transportation, it becomes even more difficult to get food. So food is a big important part of what MLK Jr. Family Services does. Shannon Rudder, what else are you doing?
Well, before we move on though, so for us, we called that out in our strategic plan that is just launched, and we are looking for folks that are eager to work with us around what do we establish for ourselves, right? So we will just grassroot this thing so that we can make sure that we are providing with dignity the access, right, outside of just our one pantry. What is like a food co-op look like for this area? So all are invited that are passionate like us to join us in that quest. But in addition to the food, we're all about stabilizing families. We do that work in conjunction with intergenerational programming, trauma-informed programming, public health framework to make sure that everyone is thriving, that there's well-being that is happening, and that's an individual thing, right? And so what I need to thrive is very different from what you need to thrive. But we know that because of those folks that are living and working in our area, that we've got to be in partnership with them on their journey. And so we do that through different programs, like a plethora of youth programs. We've got after-school program, both at the center, but also at MLK Charter School, looking to partner with other schools for satellite locations. Also have night spot programming, that is meaning that the center is open from 6 to 9 p.m. and in the summer to 10 p.m. to ensure that folks that want to be gaming or basketball or volleyball or mental health, youth mental health, but also intergenerational programming around mental health and well-being. We have a new program called Strong African American Families that is all about rewriting parenting, right? And so like I'm going to parent very similar. I've got 2 kids and they're 20 years apart, and my 26-year-old got a very different parent than my 6-year-old because I've learned some things, right? And so we want to make sure that we're engaging with our parents so that they're ever evolving as well. So lots of great programming. We're in the 42nd year of our HBCU experience, which is workshops that lead up to a spring break tour. So yeah, that's how we're keeping the dream at
HBCU,
MLK.
historically black colleges and universities, and bringing students from here to some of those historically black colleges to get that college experience. It's fantastic.
And speaking of academic experiences, you've also been a home for the Clemente course from Mass Humanities, offering older members of our community an opportunity to have a little bit, have like an academic like boost if they are interested in learning
6
more.
college credits.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. You also, Shannon Rudder from MLK Junior Family Services, right now on Beacon Hill have an exhibit that has been on tour, the Be Love exhibit, and our friend Claudia, who is there on Beacon Hill helping to install that. And I believe today is the first day that
It just got
is
set
opened.
up.
Yeah, tell us
today.
what Be Love is and what people could see if they go to Beacon Hill.
Yeah, I love the question because Be Love actually was born my first MLK Day, which was 2 years ago, from puzzle pieces. We asked folks, how are you living into Dr. King's dream? And so everybody, like young and old, gathered around tables and just colored into puzzle pieces or wrote words about how they're living into Dr. King's legacy, how they're being love in action. And together with Springfield Cultural Partnership and the libraries with MLK Family Services, we hosted puzzle piece decoration parties and listening sessions, and it morphed into these beautiful pieces of art that now is on a traveling exhibit called the Be Love exhibit. And so for more information about, hosting that or for taking the pledge, Be Love Pledge, it's on our website. And so I invite anybody to engage with us. Really, the mission of that movement is to be demonstrative of like acts of kindness and showing up, with one another in community.
That'll be up on Beacon Hill until the 23rd of this month, but then if you can't make it to Boston, it's coming back to Springfield for February in Tower Square. So you can check out all those details at mlkjuniorfamilyservices.org.
Let's talk about what's actually happening on Monday.
Yes.
Because there's kind of 2 halves to what happens, and it's all free and open to the public at the Mass Mutual
And
Center.
family friendly.
Totally family friendly. Yep. In fact, a lot of children of families will be performing
on that
stage.
Kids on stage.
A lot of kids on stage at that historically, yes. But it starts with an arts and wellness expo before getting into the program itself. Talk about bringing more of that community into this celebration on this particular day.
Absolutely. It's 40 plus tables of folks that run from artists to local vendors of all ages. We've got this beautiful young vendor who's coming with hair bows, but like with messages of positivity and peace, and Dr. King that's there. And we've got local artists that are going to be demonstrating. We've got Make It Springfield. You come by the Make It Springfield table and make some beats with them. Local civic...
Beats like that you would dance to, or
Yes.
beats like you're going to make a salad?
No, like
Okay.
you're going to dance to.
The former rather than the latter. Got it.
We're dancing. Food's always on your mind. Love it. Yeah, and the other civic organizations, voter registration will be there, League of Women Voters, right? And so lots of our sponsor tables, lots of opportunities for health and wellness, as you said. And if you go a little further, we have 4 local artists that are hosting their own engaging artistic exhibits, if you will. And so you'll have Jamila, who is hosting Rest is Revolutionary, and like ancestral instruments to play, and like how do you engage? Because we can't be like justice protectors and seekers and warriors without like refueling ourselves for the battle, right? And so engaging with her in that. We'll have our tunist who is going to be helping us to weave together a community poem through his art. And then we have 2 photographers, Chucky Crespo and Grace, who are going to be helping us to recognize how we look like justice. And so an engaging opportunity for all to have. That's just the lobby experience.
Yep. That's before you get into the actual convention center and see all the
Yeah,
things
and that's
that are
from
happening there.
12:30 to about 2. And then 2, the program kicks kicks off on Monday at the Mass Mutual Center.
Absolutely. And you talked about kiddos, right?
Yeah.
Like that, it's a beautiful, beautiful array of, I don't know, the bright hope and brilliance of our youth. They are the ones that are going to be the protectors of this dream. It's our responsibility, right, to model it for them, but they are gathering today, or gathering us, leading us that day. And so we'll have Big Red drumline from Libertas setting it off for us, and Sonido Musica, which is over 800 children from across Springfield and Holyoke that are going to be on stage. We got the
How many children?
Over 800.
Yeah, so if you like
children.
kids and a lot of loud drumming, this is for you.
Yeah, I mean, community music school, like bucket drumming,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Our King's kids from the MLK Family Services, Steps. I mean, you name it. We've got an array of brilliant young people that are going to be inviting you in.
It's the marquee event, I think, of a 5-day long event that starts today, celebrating the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. It's his actual birthday today. We will celebrate the holiday on Monday. Restoring Justice, Reclaiming the Dream at the Mass Mutual Center in Springfield. 12:30 is that Arts and Wellness program. 2 o'clock is the program on stage with all the kids and the singing and that wonderful stuff for this.
And kid orators.
Kid orators,
Yes.
kids speaking, yes, for this incredible federal holiday that for some reason I can't go to the national parks for free.
I mean, you
and
can.
also there's one other national holiday that all of a sudden I can't go to the national parks for free. I don't know what those two holidays might have in common.
What are the odds?
Juneteenth and MLK Day.
There's
but
something that ties those two holidays together?
I mean, it's at a time when justice feels fragile and division is super duper loud, right? Like, this is our declaration. This is our declaration that our city is not afraid to step into the light and to be the light and to ensure that hope with action, right, is center.
Shannon Rudder is the executive director of Martin Luther King Jr. Family Services, Mason Square in Springfield. Thanks again for coming on the show. Good luck to your Buffalo Bills on Saturday against the Denver
let's
Broncos.
go Bills.
Good luck to my New England Patriots. I hope to see you in the AFC Championship game.
Just about everybody needs hope this season, honestly. On the next Fabulous 413, we'll hear about Springfield's long lineage of hockey with Nate Costa of the Springfield Thunderbirds.
And meet a brand new theater company in East Hampton. It's the folks of Heartbeat Theater, opened their first show, Proof, this weekend.
Plus, Live Music Friday spans the whole Commonwealth as we hear the carefully counterpointed folk of Boston's Almost Olive before they play at the Fresh Grass Institute in North Adams on January 16th. That's Friday, y'all.
I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Khalees Smith. Talk to you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.